All right. Has anybody in here ever heard of a plot triangle? All right, good. So I guess your English teachers have done a good job in having you create stories. Who would like to describe what a plot triangle is? Ryan?
Good
All right,
morning,
hold that
staff
thought.
and students. It is Thursday, November 19th.
A plot triangle.
Basically, it's like certain parts of a story.
All right, certain parts of a story.
Yeah, like there's an activation, and then there's like the rising action, and then the climax, and the falling action, and then the conclusion.
Good. So you are describing exactly what we have on here, all right? And I brought Mrs. Infranco in today, who is an English teacher here at OCVTS, for her expertise on the matter also, to try to help explain. And I don't know if you could hear what Ryan was saying there, Mrs. Infranco, or me reading back his responses. But he did refer to the rising action and the climax and then the falling action. And did you talk about resolution, Ryan?
Isn't that like the conclusion?
Yeah, basically. I guess there could be some different terms that are talked about. All right. Why is it important to have that plot triangle, in your opinion, Ryan?
Because it tells you important parts of the story.
Okay. So, but I mean, we could always have important parts, but what's like kind of unique about those parts? In the end, does it create something kind of different, or yeah? Can you put it into words, you think, or what makes it helpful?
Well, basically, it goes into certain important plot points.
Okay. Anybody else that, since you guys have all had experience doing this, do you remember anything from your English classes in the benefit or the purpose of using a plot triangle? You guys just remember doing them. Nobody remembers why we use them. That's all right. Lily? A base to follow so you don't lose track. Okay, so yeah, it's like a diagram, right, or a blueprint in a sense. All right, anybody
Mr.
else?
Duza, isn't it true that this morning what we found was if we didn't have these 5 very important parts, including the 6th part, which is the conflict, we kind of realized that it was pretty boring if one of these things were missing.
Yes, I agree. And that's what I was kind of alluding to here also. We want to have a point to the story, right? Whereas I think when I kind of presented this project, it was just having a conversation, but really there was not really a point to it, right? So I think, you know, in any type of design, whether you're designing for a commercial or a short film or a video game even, all right, there should be these parts of it that give it some value, because otherwise they're just like about nothing, right? And it's like maybe you finish watching it and you say, so like what's the point, right? So by doing this and kind of labeling and creating this this diagram or blueprint, as Lily was saying, we can establish a little more significance to our stories, really, rather than it just being a scene about kind of nothing. All right? So hopefully you are kind of understanding the point of this. Anything else you want to add there, Mrs. Infranco?
No, I think you covered it. I think it's important that we remember to put a conflict in. So one of the things I spoke to a student in the AM about was we can have 2 characters or 3 characters having a discussion, but there has to be some kind of a conflict, and that doesn't always mean a huge problem. It could be something that's in one of the characters, like in their mind, and if they don't explicitly say it, maybe the words they choose or the actions they're showing are implying that something's not right here. And then always remember that when the climax occurs, you have, I remember my English teacher telling me this in college, that after the climax happens, things can never be exactly the same as they were in the beginning. And that's how you know the climax has occurred. Like, so a lot of times it's hard to find what the climax is or you know, or maybe the teacher asks you on a test, what is the climax of this story, label it. And if you get that question wrong, it's confusing. Why did I get that wrong? How come it's hard to find? Because sometimes things seem like they're a climax, but it's always that one moment that occurs. And sometimes there are more than one. So feel free to argue that. If your teacher works it wrong, you could say, well, isn't it in the eye of the beholder? Couldn't it be that this is also a climax? That, you know, and sometimes will be the argument.
Yeah, and we debated on some of those this morning, and you know, I think that they are kind of subject to interpretation.
Absolutely.
All right, so any questions so far on what we're trying to establish here? All right, so let's kind of we're going to take a look at a couple short cartoons, and I was trying to find, we had a good like bad one actually in the morning, and I'm trying to find that again. I have a couple kind of good ones created, and
yeah, where's that bad one? That was a very good example of a bad idea.
yeah, I can't remember what I searched for.
It was a pig and a stick figure.
Yeah, these are all videos, so.
What about in the history of the?
Oh yeah, that's true too. History. These are all right. So it was one of the first ones. So it had to be maybe here. No, I don't. Oh wait, is this it? No, that was.
I wonder if it was one of the.
That was at 11:05. Sorry, so that should be back here.
Oh, right.
Let's try this one. I think it was the first one we watched. Yeah, here we go. All right. All right, so what do we think? I guess we kind of gave you our opinion of that. Like, what's the conflict there? Jordan, is there one conflict there? What happened in this little short cartoon? Describe what happened there, Amy. In this cartoon, what like if you had to paraphrase, how would you describe what's happened in this?
They're like just killing each other.
It just keeps repeating, right?
Yeah.
Repeated killing. Ryan, you're pretty entertained by that? All right. It is entertaining, right? Even though if it's not the best design.
It's just sad,
Right.
dying.
You feel like you'll never get that moment, that time back in your life, right? You've just wasted however many seconds. I agree, right? So what's the problem with this, though? Why? Because, and that's the thing, right? In any type of critique, if we're going to say that it's bad, which is a very subjective word, right? Everybody's definition of bad is different. But what would make this not so good or a poor design? Lily? Yeah, and is there like a main conflict? No. You're thinking that it would kind of get to something, right? Like I felt at a point where like here, where he kind of got blown up and then, or he was holding, no, I'm sorry, this part. I think he's holding the flag, and I thought maybe this could have been the end, but then it goes on, right? So it's like there really is no climax. It just keeps
questions. Where are we? Who is this? Why is T-Rex now here? And
Right. Why are they fighting against each other, right? All right. So I think we can all say now though that it's a bad design because, you don't know why, why they're fighting. There is no climax that they're reaching. All right. And there's no resolution. There's definitely no resolution, right? It doesn't go on to anywhere and kind of let you know what happens. All right. This one. So now let's look at what we thought were some good examples.
So your job to do while you're watching this is find the rising action, find the climax, and find the resolution.
Some amazing artwork there, right? All right, so I'll kind of loop it here. As you can watch, I'll turn the sound off. So let's see, what would be the conflict? And I'd like to think of the conflict first, and even in writing your own stories, I think that's kind of the best thing to look at first, so you kind of work and you know what is the problem, or what's the main thing that's being kind of addressed in it. So let's go to somebody online there. Dariana, do you have a microphone today? Probably have to chat here with her. I should open this up also. All right, I'll go to another online person. Danny, did you see that video?
Yes.
All right. And actually, anybody online, I would appreciate while we're having a nice discussion if you could turn on your cameras. All right, so that as I'm calling you, if I can see you, I know you're there, and we can see your beautiful reactions on things and personality. So, Danny, what do you think would be the conflict in that fish video here?
Let me watch it one more time.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure it's just he's trying to get a fish, but hold on.
And I think that would be pretty fair to say, right? He's seeing it go
Yeah.
by, and you can tell that he wants the worm, I guess, on the hook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like I hear what you're saying. At first, it's about the fisherman, and suddenly we don't see him. We don't see him again. So at first we're like, oh, it's the fisherman. Now our focus is on some other characters.
Yeah. So we're focused on this yellow fish, right? And you see him looking up at the worm.
Yeah.
And now we got it, right?
I guess climax to that would be the turning point where the bait is cut off with the string. And yeah.
Does everybody else agree that or see that? So that moment where the other fish cuts the line is the change, right? Where things kind of go and solve the problem of the fish wanting that worm, right? And then what would the resolution be of that little story? Tracy, what do you think the resolution would be? Kind of if we think about what happens after he gets that.
Well, after the bait's been cut, I guess that the fish ends up eating the bait and just swims off.
And saying thank you, kind of, right? All right. So this should kind of frame out your stories too, because I feel like when we're planning, using the document that I created, we're so focused on time and things like that, that you're just getting dialogue and it's kind of random. So I think I'm going to change your requirements and not really have a time limit, but just have these parts of your story included with that. All right. So this, going back to our diagram, which I provided an overall type of, explanation of it, but then also one that's fillable. All right, or you can complete on your own. So we should have your exposition where you talk about your setting and all that type of stuff, all these rising actions which lead up to the climax, and then what happens after that leading to your resolution. So I am going,
So,
yes,
real quick, so when I was working this morning, we decided, a student and I decided we weren't gonna need 3 events, so I wanted to make sure that's okay with you. If we had, you know, a little description of an exposition, and all that needs to be is 2 characters are having a discussion in a classroom hallway, or in a school hallway, or in a Target. And then we only had 2 events that led up to the climax. So do you want us to try to build a covered event?
no, I don't think that's necessary, because then it's kind of forcing the issue, I think. I think
Okay.
as long as there's one type of kind of reasoning or kind of leading up to that climax, you know, that's a story, you know. There can be a lot of different things, but just, I think, illustrating this concept, you know, just having one piece of information or detail, I think demonstrates that we're thinking in that way.
Right, so what if we take a quick example and fill in the blanks to show students what could be the event, what could be the climax, what's the conflict, and then the final event or 2 in the resolution?
Sure, should we, I
Do you
mean,
want to do that with an example from yours in my head, or do you want to take a student's work that's been turned in and try to organize it?
yeah, we can take a Google Doc, all right, which is, I think, what we did in the morning, right?
Yes.
So I'm sure that some of you turned in these, so I'm going to go, or one of them. So if I go to Docs, anybody know they shared theirs and want to volunteer to have theirs kind of examined? You guys afraid of? There's nothing to be afraid of. We're not going to fire you or point our fingers and wave and taunt you because something was not done correctly.
We're going to help you build it.
All right. All right, I see Jackie, yours is on kind of towards the top. Do you mind if we take a look at yours?
Go ahead.
All right. All right, so, and what we did too, we had some fun with this in the morning, depending on dialogue. All right, we kind of talked out the parts, which I don't know if you have here, but we can kind of work through that. All right, so Jackie's title is The Woods. We have 2 characters, a 16-year-old student named Ella and a ghost, all right, talking about some rain clouds on her shirt, all right, and they're in the dark, foggy forest. So where's that information going to be filled in on our plot diagram? I'm trying to find my correct tab here, sorry. This one, there we go. All right, so where's all that information going to go on our plot diagram? Character names, their ages, foggy forest, exposition, right. And actually, I gave you a little more room on the side here, all right? So that would kind of be, actually, maybe what I can do, are there arrows in here? I think there are.
I think if you click on the characters area, like you click in that area, oh yeah, you can use the arrow. You can even widen the box that has the characters setting music info.
Yeah. So does that make sense, everybody? So we could just kind of
Yeah, that's good.
have a little more room there for that. All right. So we're saying here we have 2 characters, Ella and the ghost. All right. Jackie, you want to be Ella or the ghost?
I'll be the ghost.
All right. So Mrs. Franco, you have the better female voice than me. Can you be Ella?
I'll be Ellen, you're gonna be the ghost?
Jackie's going to be the ghost.
Okay, people at home I don't think can hear Jackie though, so
Oh.
I wonder, can Jackie
Yeah,
join the WebEx?
Can you come over? I'll just have her come to my desk.
Oh, okay.
It's right here.
Yep, because
Okay.
that's the microphone right there. Okay, go ahead. Ella?
Oh, do you want me to share it with her so she can see it? Or
I
should
think
I read
you
off
can
the
see
screen?
my screen, right, Mrs. Franco?
Yes.
So you want to just start reading the part for Ella where it's highlighted?
Oh, I'm Ella?
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry. I'm waiting for, Sorry. I don't like it here. It's so spooky. Why do woods always have to be so spooky?
It's not that scary.
Well, now it is. Ah!
Well, that's just rude. I guess I'll follow. I wonder where she's going.
Okay, now I see. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay, so do we have the first part, right? So we want a leading event. From that, if we had to reformat that into our plot triangle, why don't, oh, so Ella's saying it's spooky.
Yeah.
All right, and the woods always, so that could be a leading event, right?
What if we add to this and say Ella needs to go through those woods in order to get where she needs to be going, whether it's home or
Yeah. Okay.
school or somewhere, and she doesn't have a choice. She has to go through the woods, and the ghost is like, well, it's not that scary here, because obviously the ghost says that's rude because she gets scared.
So if I add a comment here, right, so if we say, I need to go through here, you're saying, to get home maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, why do you think, why does she need to go through the woods?
Probably to a friend's house, maybe.
All right.
I was thinking that or dare.
All right, well, whichever way you want to go with that, you know, to get to my friend's house. All right, so that kind of sets up the conflict even, right? As we talk about, and as Mrs. Infranco said, the conflict doesn't have to be literally spelled out, but I think you want to at least address it so that, you know, you're considering that in your writing. All right, so.
Right, because remember that stick figure cartoon, we couldn't really tell what the conflict was, like why was that happening? So we want to know, why is Ella in the woods, and does she must have to be there for some reason.
And so why is it, so you said, well, now it is scary, but why is that? Because the ghost is there?
Yeah,
Yes.
like it just seems spooky, and then suddenly there's a ghost, which makes it even more scary.
So, all right, and guess I'll go follow. I wonder where she is going. So you're following, oh wait, well.
Well, it's almost like the ghost doesn't realize that Ella's, or anybody should be afraid of him or her, and Ella is saying it's spooky, and the ghost was just trying to be friendly.
So the ghost is following Ella.
To see where she's going.
Right.
Like, is she gonna get lost or not?
So would the climax be,
The climax is either the ghost popping out or Ella running away.
right, so I think maybe there should be a line in there where the ghost says something, right, as he's popping out, right? And that's why I think just writing a script maybe doesn't address those things. So using this plot triangle, right, kind of forces you to think about that line a little more. So your climax would be, right, the ghost jumping out,
Yeah.
I would think, right? And
And
then,
yeah, the ghost jumps out, and now Ella knows for sure she's scared for a reason. She was right to be scared.
I think the end, it's not that scary, was supposed to be the ghost popping out.
okay,
Just a random, it's not that scary.
yeah. And now what does your character think? What happens with the character? Are they running away?
Yeah,
So that should probably be kind of addressed in here. That would probably be a falling action, right?
yeah.
And then the resolution, I think, though, as you said, would be, all right, guess I'll just go follow.
Maybe I'll change it to, I guess I'll go follow, I hope she doesn't get lost.
Yeah, so that the ghost isn't really scary, right? That
Yeah.
because that's what you're kind of really trying to kind of just point out, is that the ghosts aren't always scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that worked, right? Does
Maybe the ghost can say something like, she just needs to get to know me better.
Maybe.
I
Yeah.
like how she has the center, left, and right. Like we know where these people are standing.
Right. Because, yeah, there's all kinds of organizers as we go through this plot triangle. You know, maybe then we would have a script and a storyboard, right?
Yeah.
To kind of visually describe, you know, if we had actual camera movements. But, you know, as you're setting up your characters and, you know, maybe you weren't the one that's doing the whole project. Maybe you have some editors, and then that would be directions for them for placement.
We picked a good idea for a setting because there's definitely music that is perfect for that.
All right. Thank you, Jackie.
No problem.
All right. Let's see. Let's take a look at one more if I can have one. Let's see. Those are all AMs. All right, Lewis. You mind talking about yours? All right. And actually, we could talk about anybody's that want to try to help out. I know after a couple, you probably feel like you get the idea, hopefully, and it gets to be a little repetitious, but you know, it never hurts to kind of get a little critique of your own. All right, so Woody Woodpecker is a 21-year-old and has a very good sense of humor. He's always having fun in every single thing he does, from doing random and weird things at his house to bothering his neighbors, especially his neighbor called Wally. That's a lot of exposition. How would you get that portrayed or illustrated into what we're doing, like kind of his personality and things like that? Would you do like a voiceover maybe thing at the beginning? Right? You know what I'm saying though, right? I hope, like, you're giving a lot of background information, but how would that be carried out in your scene? I mean, one way, if you do want to have it included, you could just do a voiceover, right? So as you're setting up your scene, you see your character of Woody Woodpecker, you have a voiceover saying that.
Like a little narrator, you mean?
Yes. All right.
Yeah, I think that's good.
And then
I could see that.
Then you have Wally Walrus, an old man, more specifically 44. He's a little fat and likes to do activities on his own. The more he is by himself, the better for him. And literally all the time he's fighting with his neighbor Woody. So I can visualize this, right? As the scene comes off, maybe you have Woody Woodpecker centered, just still shot. And I mean, he could be kind of moving his head around if you want to do some animation. So you could describe Woody Woodpecker, then it cuts to Wally Walrus, and then you have their interaction. All right? So, all right, let's read this through, and we'll have some personality here. Lewis, do you want to be Woody or Wally? Woody? All right, I'll be Wally. Can you read that? Is that glare too bad over there? All right, so go ahead. You be Woody. And actually, come on over here so everybody can hear you, because that was a good point Mrs. Franco made. Our home viewers can't hear you from over there. All right, go ahead.
I've gotta watch the games.
This is yours. Ugh, how rude of me.
Hey Wally, your barbecue smells kind of... that's it. I knew it. Hard Sicilian salami.
But I've never been to Sicily.
Tell it to the judge. This evidence must be treated with the utmost care. It has to be kept in this protected coating and treated properly. Shucks, Mr. Walrus. You should be ashamed of yourself. All this will cost you dearly. You're going down solitary confinement.
Oh no!
And that will leave you with prison food.
No!
Hello, buddy. Oh, not that's Wally.
Oh.
Yeah, that's you.
Hello, buddy. Will you spare some food for a guy down on his luck?
There's more. Sure, you're just in time. The delivery truck just came. Fresh logs. With all the termites you can eat, it tastes like chicken. Dig in.
Ha 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 ha. All right. So from that, let's hear from somebody. What is the conflict? I think that's something we want to try to identify first. Cassidy, could you identify a conflict there? You couldn't hear us? All right. Aurora, were you paying attention at all? Did you see what the conflict was in that story? All right. You try to, if you're working on your stuff, try to lend an ear so that when you get to your own, you know what we're talking about. Julian, what about you? Could you identify a conflict there? What's this a story about? All right, maybe if establishing a conflict might be too specific. What is his story about? about food, right? Definitely had to do with food. All right, what else? What about the food? Amy, did you get anything from that? What was the story about in relation to food?
They're comparing it to others.
Comparing it, or the one guy was kind of saying that it was bad, right?
Yeah.
So Woody is saying that Wally's food is like horrible, right? And these guys are kind of at odds with each other. All right. So, Lewis, I would think that would be your conflict. They're fighting about kind of how bad Wally's food is, right? Something like that. All right. Do you get?
They're in the same house?
What do you mean? Like, do they live together or something? Or
Yeah, where are they?
yeah, it's a good point, right? So your setting, right? You didn't really establish that. I mean, you say, kind of alluding to a barbecue, so maybe they're in a backyard or something like that.
Maybe their houses are close, and then Woody can smell Wally's.
Yeah, like over the fence type of thing, right? Or maybe they're kind of there at a barbecue. All right, so all these things, or what are some of the leading or rising actions in this story? We can just talk about this conflict, right? As far as these making fun, right? So, that's all you'd really have to write here, Lewis, as far as your rising action, is that Woody is making kind of snide comments or kind of negative comments towards Wally, right? The climax, all right, how does the story change? At what point? Do we have a climax?
I'm thinking the climax is when Woody says, "You can tell the judge because this is not okay. You're going down."
Yes. So, I mean, are they saying figuratively, Lewis, that he's are they in jail, or does he end up going to jail, like because of what he's saying, or he is? He doesn't. Okay. So I think, I'm trying to read this a little more. So Woody isn't going to take it anymore. He kind of stands up to Wally, right? That's basically what he's doing, right? Because just have to keep my character straight here. Wally is getting harassed basically by Woody about his food, and then he stands up for himself, right?
I have a question. Why is Wally asking Woody to spare food for a guy who's down in his luck?
Because he became homeless? Okay, so, yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's kind of jumping to something without giving his support to be there. Yeah, this part in here I think needs to be developed a little more and talked about, why that's happening.
Maybe Wally was sent somewhere and he has no food now. So maybe whatever happened, Wally was sent away.
Did he become homeless like before this conversation started, or like during it? It was after. And yeah, because I mean, those are some big jumps to make, right, within a story, especially a short story. So you want to kind of try to make smaller jumps, I think, so that there's not any confusion created in there. I mean, this would be a resolution here. All right, so you're just in time. The delivery truck came, so he's getting food. I think you just need to kind of talk about, so this area, basically, however you're working this out, your falling action is what needs to be, I think, clarified a little bit more.
Okay, and I think we need to just find out, is Wally a walrus or are they both woodpeckers? Because if a shipment of wood just came and has termites in it, then they, of course, Wally would eat the termites. It says he's an old man, though. Wally Walrus is an old man.
Yeah, are they actually a woodpecker and a walrus, or that's just kind of their nicknames? Nickname, right? Okay, because I didn't even really think about that before. But as Mrs. Franco said, you did kind of clarify him as a man.
Okay.
So yeah, I think you really, and we can talk about that and develop that a little more. But this section, and do you agree, Mrs. Franco, that kind of the falling action is a little kind of confusing?
Yeah, maybe trim out the beginning part where they're yelling at each other about somebody's food smells bad. Trim it down to be somebody has no food, or somebody is down on their luck and has the food supply. So now the climax could be where he hit rock bottom and he's like, "Mate, I need food."
I guess that's one way to go. I was going to say he could kind of stay with this where, like I was saying before, he's standing up to Wally. But then, this kind of what happens afterwards, because basically, let's see, Woody.
Like, is he kidding about the termites being food?
Yeah, good question. But, Wally's complaining about Woody's food, but then Wally's asking if he could spare some food, right? So somebody who's complaining is then asking, right? Literally a beggar being a chooser, as we say, that shouldn't happen really, right? So why is Wally asking for food after he's making fun of Woody's food, right? I would think maybe if Woody's standing up for himself, if you want to keep it here, maybe Wally could say, "All right, you know what? You're right. Maybe I am too mean to you. And by the way, I'm really hungry. Maybe you could spare some." You understand what I'm saying, Lewis? All right. And that will definitely address this, So you're saying, enough of this harassment, basically. I don't deserve this. You don't like it, kind of get out of here. And then maybe Wally has a change of heart and says, "All right, you know what? It's not so bad. I was being a jerk. I shouldn't be picky if I need food and I'm asking you for some." All right. So hopefully that helps to kind of resolve and get through that and make a little more sense, to have some continuity. Danny, do you want to look at yours? Has everybody online checked out?
I mean, it's pretty much done. There's still an ending section of the script I have to finish, and now that I think about it, looking at these ones, I think I'm gonna add a little more, like in the beginning, to kind of set up
Your
something.
rising action.
Yeah, so kind of like, because in the thing he's just strolling through the park and happens to come up on the photo shoot, but maybe in the beginning I can put him like talking to himself, or something, and be like, "Oh, well, I've always wanted to learn how to, do photography," or something like that, and then he runs into the dude teaches him to do it.
So that's kind of setting up the conflict there, I guess you're saying, right? In that
Yeah.
there's a reason why he's kind of, this is significant.
Yep.
Okay, good.
All right, so I want to make sure that everybody understands. You want to pick a conflict that isn't going to spiral out of control and go in all these different directions. So keep it tight. A good example from this morning was when we worked through an idea where there were two boys who were interested in the same girl, and when they bumped into her, they both realized that they're in love with the same girl, and then they were fighting. So that's the rising action. The climax occurs when she tells them, "Sorry guys, I already have a boyfriend anyway, so, have a nice day." The falling action is that they have to accept it, and they say, "Okay, we're going home to play video games instead," because And the conflict was that two people were in love with the same person. The climax occurs when the person has no interest in either one of them.
And then they go on their ways.
Yeah, so keep it limited. Like, try not to let it spiral out into outer space where you can't get back to where you started. And have clear characterization. So if you have two people and one of them is bad and one of them is just an innocent victim, make sure they maintain that throughout the story. So like with Woody and Wally, what did Wally do? Like, we have to make sure we're aware, because if Woody is now saying, well, I'm going to take you to court, you tell it to the judge. Tell what? Like, what did we do? We're not sure. So make sure you have clear design and not too elaborate yet. So start small. We can elaborate when we get used to doing this, like biting off a small piece of chew, and then develop it later and have you can have multiple times when there's a climax happening, but for now you gotta keep it small, keep it tight.
I agree, right? You gotta walk before you can run, right? All right, Griselda, would you like us to take a look at yours, or do you feel like you gotta have a pretty good handle on this and understanding? Here she comes. I see your mic going on. Give you a couple more seconds to respond. Griselda, would you like us to analyze your planning, or you feel like you understand what to do? All right, guess we lost you there a little bit. All right, so I would like, in our classroom today, this document is in here. When you open this in Jamboard, anybody ever used Jamboard before? No? It's another Google product. It is collaborative, so you could share it with another person. I like it a little bit more than Google Docs for our purposes, because it is a little more design orientated and fluid. So if you make an image, you can move it around the screen a lot easier, and you're not kind of bound to things being so in one place and using text wrappings and things like this. So you can move pictures all around how you'd like to. You can post-it notes, arrows, text boxes, and that type of thing. All right, so when you open this, you do have to make a copy, and you do that in here by clicking on the More Actions button, the three dots, or the snowman as people call it, and then just do make a copy, and then you can edit it on your own and share it with me at the end of the day. Hopefully you'll get it wrapped up there. All right, so we spent a good amount of time on there. Honestly, do you guys think this is going to help you to make better stories? Give me a thumb up or down, or Jordan, what do you think? You're good? Is this going to help you, or is this just, yeah? All right, good. Couple thumbs. All right, so I'm glad, that I am providing something, and I thank Mrs. Infranco for giving a little more expertise on that also. Maybe you can come back when we have our project presentations, and we can discuss the success of using these conventions in that. All right?
Yeah, I liked learning about Jamboard too. I think it's a great tool.
Okay. So hopefully next week we'll kind of have these wrapped up as we're doing these, and but I'll let you know. I'll try to give you a day or two notice when I think we're getting close.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
All right. You too.